Hi, everybody. My name is Matt Lovelace. I'm an assistant professor of practice here at WSU's Murrow College of Communication. I teach the broadcast journalism courses that followed a long career as a TV news anchor and a reporter. Now, whether we like it or not, we're in an age of video. Obviously, I tend to like it, but I know it's not in the comfort zone of every journalist. Many of you purposely avoided broadcast courses like mine, but then maybe your editor asked you to post something for web or social. Perhaps another publication asked for you to make an appearance, or maybe even you have to host a Zoom call. So you know what? Let's upgrade and take our videos from this
to this, or maybe even this. We'll make this a step-by-step guide in getting you ready to put yourself on camera with some basic technical know-how in helping us get there.
Now you may ask yourself, what's the problem with this? This is my computer's webcam. I'm on camera. You can see me. You can hear me. Isn't that enough? Now it works, but I'd counter, are words on the page and proper sentence structure enough? This is all part of the craft of storytelling. And more, as we mentioned, it is about video. Plus your competition is doing
this, creating a perception at least of quality and professionalism. Believe it or not, people are taking these cues to decide if they're going to trust you. So if you ever want your company or even your personal brand to get greater reach, the technical quality of the video matters. It matters to the algorithm. So we all should know how to hit record, but if you want a professional quality product, we need to talk about a few things: setup, lighting, framing, some helpful technology, some things you should be doing for better video of yourself. Now we'll be practical here. There's no need for a recording studio or $1,000 microphones. Most of this will be about things you can do with things that you have, but there are things worth adding to your gear bag that might make you a bit more camera ready, or at least have a ready camera while you're on the go. That means preparing us for all platforms, which means the unique considerations and features when posting to social media. For much of this though, I'll use horizontal video standards, best for on-air and online work for devices for which we use a widescreen format. First, some things you should have. One, a camera, obviously, or a phone works just fine if you're close range. A microphone, one that can plug into your source, and some kind of light. A ring light does just fine. There's no real substitution for professional lighting setups, but we're just trying to illuminate you close up. And if nature or your building's fluorescent lighting isn't helping, this will help. Now for this particular video, I'm just using my iPhone. I also have a wireless microphone kit with a lightning adapter for my iPhone. I've got a ring light with its own tripod. And if you want a little more adaptability in your background, get yourself a green screen. This was actually just a $2 piece of fabric from Walmart, and a color, honestly, I don't really ever wear. So with a little editing know-how, I can put whatever I want behind me. We'll go ahead and deal with real backgrounds for now. I do want you to get set up in your own environment like I am here. And you know, with the right gear, you can set up about anywhere. If it is easiest to do this at your workspace, go ahead and do it. My advice though is always to put yourself in the best environment for lighting. Now that's obvious, but you might not think of it when you're facing your computer to a windowless wall. Without lighting help, it might end up looking like this. So if I can say it in a one-sentence standard, the brightest light should be highlighting you. Too much bright sky, an open window, or the lights above or behind you are going to be things you want to avoid if you don't have the help of something like a light. But you know what? Let's try this without an extra light. Now in this particular office, my windows are on this side. This is nature lighting my face. However, my office lights are still on, so if I just turn those off, now the background's a little bit darker. I stand out because I'm a little bit brighter. And to simplify, you know what you look like, even the contours of your own face. So just make sure that's the image you're putting on camera. Next up, let's talk about a microphone. And to use some simple terminology, I'm going to mic myself up. Now, why does a microphone like this matter?
Just like good video, focusing our sound is a critical part of the process. I'm trying to eliminate the echo in my room, all these hard surfaces, including my desk. I'm trying to eliminate the conversations my coworkers are having, the sirens that might be going on in the background.
Higher quality microphones are meant to isolate the sound from your voice from the other sounds from nature or your office or the echo. And it doesn't have to be expensive. This simple wired microphone was a $12 Amazon purchase. For the sake of some more features and functionality and mobility, I did pick up this wireless kit I showed you earlier. A couple of microphones and a receiver with good range. Now, if you do have a wired microphone, let me give you a couple of tips. One, hide the cord. We don't want viewers to focus on the TV production aspect of it. A dangling cord off of somebody's lapel is akin to a boom mic entering the top frame of a video. In any other TV production, we would consider that a blooper. So, string the microphone up through a shirt and clip it onto a collar. Or if you're dealing with something where you can't access the waistline, like a dress, you can go up through a sleeve and out of the neckline. Of course, wireless functionality is a little bit different. It's a little bit more mobile. All you have to do is clip it on. I say the less conspicuous, the better. But the most important thing is that you're getting good audio. And I cannot stress this enough, never hold the microphone. You want consistency. I want hands-free all the time. So now let's get you set up in terms of how close you are to your camera and how far you are from your background with a couple of initial tips. One, get as far away from your background as you reasonably can. There's a photography and videography concept called depth of field. The more sharply in focus you are, the more blurry that background will be. We want to put that focus on you. Good lighting and good proximity to your camera and depth from your background will beat a zoom filter or cinematic mode on your phone any day. Thinking of backing yourself up against a wall or another surface? I wouldn't recommend it. You usually only see this scenario when you're having your driver's license photo or maybe if you've had a mug shot taken. I hope you haven't. Also, being backed up against a wall, there's a metaphor that relates to that, and it does not invoke confidence. And that's why it's important to consider where you are while creating a fair amount of depth behind you. Next up is framing, how you put yourself on the screen. And for starters, that depends on where your camera is. So my advice is always to set the camera level with the eyes. I don't advise shooting up at your chin or down at your head. Neither are particularly flattering for someone like me. How do you do this? However you want. Even for this, I've stacked a bunch of books under my computer or clipped a camera holder on a bookshelf. And you may be familiar with this concept, but let's talk about the rule of thirds. That's when you divide your screen vertically and horizontally into thirds. Most phones have that option to overlay a grid on top of a photo or video when you take it. In my opinion, that's a smart thing to have for this purpose. For selfie video then, let's center up. Then pay attention to the line that separates the top and middle third of your screen. You want to work with that, put your nose right along that line, and do so with the bottom of the screen about mid-torso. Usually the headroom, which should only be like an inch or two, will take care of itself in that case. And vertical video obviously changes those rules ever so slightly, but we're still getting our nose on that top third line. Obviously, there are reasons to play around with this rule. If you want to highlight your background or show something else on screen, then violate the rule by all means. But this is pretty standard framing for those who want to address an audience. The main thing is, don't just be somewhere on screen. Be intentional about how you do it. Also, and this is a key point, remember where your camera lens is. It can be pretty easy to get distracted by yourself, whether you're on a Zoom call looking at your face coming back at you, or maybe your phone's image of you on screen. That's not the camera. Right now, I'm looking at myself, but I want to be looking at my audience. My camera lens is right here, a little off center above my image on my phone. So if you don't want to look like you're looking a little off to the side when you should be looking at your viewer, you should keep that in mind. For a lot of you, all that stuff's probably the easy part. The tough part is the performance. So let's talk about it. And it does feel strange to call it that in our industry, but the performance matters. First things first, just make sure you're warmed up vocally. It can start with something as simple as clearing your throat, but there are a lot of things you can do. My social media is full of nonsense like that, but we sound different in the morning than we do midday, don't we? Or than we do even at the end of the night. These are muscles after all. They need to be stretched and they can be worn out. Next step, be eager. Be engaged when you speak. Kind of hear me playing with the musical scales a little bit there. There's this misconception about this thing called reporter voice. It's not some magical formula or cadence. It's really just an energized version of you. Look, I know you may not feel like this is what you signed up for, but the amount of excitement or emotion you provide, consider that the ceiling for the amount of attention an audience is going to give it. So do you sound bored or disinterested? You're kind of setting your audience up to feel that way about your content. In addition to energy, I'd say have an outline for what you want to say. Know how you want to start, ways to transition from one point or one fact to another. Make sure you jot down your key points. It's okay to look down at notes, even for the most seasoned TV journalists. And a good fill-in-the-blank phrase to use is, here's what you need to know. It distills the whole purpose of your job, but if you just say that and know what's supposed to come next, it's really effective. Here's what you need to know. And a lot of the struggle initially is not how to convey the content itself. I get it. It's the comfort with which you begin and end it. So introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Matt. Talk about what you're doing. Let's talk about TV reporting today. Tell us who else we'll hear from and why they're important to this context. And then make clear when you're done speaking. News reporters do this thing called a ta-dum. And now you know I'm done with the story. Sounds a lot like a live news report. Also, be sure to speak conversationally and succinctly. This is a broadcast-specific effort, rewarding what we call cop speak, for example. Do not use approximately if you normally say the word about. Don't say transported if taken rolls off the tongue a little bit better. They're not motor vehicles. You've never said that in conversation. They're cars. How would you convey the message, or better yet, how would you say it to a coworker? Another misconception is that we're counting uhs and ums. We're not really doing that. We all do that in normal conversation. And, an occasional can help gather a thought. It happens, and it should happen without recognizing it. I would say, though, just maybe try not to do it a lot. And don't forget the rest of your body speaks too. Use your facial features. Express, surprised, skeptical, curious. Even the tone of voice helps that as well. And you know what? If it's comfortable for you, and you see me do it a lot in this video, move your hands, pick things up, show your audience. That's all a part of effective communication. And finally, a couple of quick social media tips, mostly about understanding where things are on a screen. Let's say I'm recording for Instagram. It's a good idea to know where the like button is, or how to tell people to click on my profile, or maybe if there's a link to more information from my story here. And also, spatial awareness matters, so leave room for captions if you want to use them, or stickers if they color up your video a little bit. The takeaway from all of this? Be yourself. Now, I know that's sometimes the best and worst advice, but let's rephrase it. Be the version of yourself that sits up straight and has something important to say. And remember, production quality matters, especially when competitors and, frankly, viewer and reader attention spans are dictating a standard.
But let's go back to the beginning. No ring lights, no artificial lighting, no external microphone, just my phone and nature's bright sky. I just need to control the environment. In fact, I obscured a lot of my office here, which is a mess right now. I've got wires everywhere. I've got papers on the ground, an old wrapper there. But once again, I'm trying to control my environment, reduce the distractions. Now, don't get me wrong, good content is still good content. The story matters most.
But if we can get out of our own way when it comes to how we deliver this content, it will make us all more effective communicators.